if some strange man came into my home and was like, here's a bunch of money. I will give you a full scholarship, more or less, to go to college. I will pay for all of it, and I will pay off your mom's credit card debt. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but you wouldn't have to threaten me with torture to get me to accept that offer.
My name is Nate.
I am Mike.
And what the hell was that?
Yeah, what the hell was that? What the hell was that?
This is perhaps a monumental moment for the podcast. This is the first episode where we watched a movie that we didn't hate.
Yeah.
Or at least that was a movie that we came out of seeing it and was like, that was actually a pretty solid movie.
Yeah.
That also didn't have some weird baggage attached to it. Because I guess you could kind of make that argument for Don't Breathe too, but different.
Oh, well, yeah. But I mean, like, we also enjoyed the first Fast and Furious film.
Yeah. But this is certainly the first film that we saw and thought it was a very fine film, and again, didn't have any strange baggage tied to it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it does kind of have strange baggage tied to it, insofar as, like, if I want to make a case about, like, who's a likable character.
That's fair, but I think that is a very separate issue from the Don't Breathe baggage.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, the Don't Breathe baggage is immense.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Have you had any time to really think over your brief thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's like a modern take on many old kind of tales, I guess. It's like an amalgamation between like a Clint Eastwood film and like Taxi Driver.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think I kind of liked in the car. You kind of were like a modern day Taxi Driver.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Joker is a modern day Taxi Driver, I guess, right? But with less weeb baggage, I guess. And I understand that like Joker is a comic and weeb is a very different thing. But the exact type of person that really enjoyed the Joker film, I'm putting like 90 to 10 odds that they're also a weeb.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
I'm also, there's a weeb spectrum, and I'm on there somewhere. Probably a 2 out of 10, but, so far be it from me. But
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's less weebish than Joker is. Less edgelordy.
Yeah, I think
more
that's very true.
Taxi Driver, less Joker, but very Taxi Driver all the same.
Mm-hmm. I think I would have to say it was just a tiny bit too spacey and artsy, but otherwise good.
I have a pretty high spacey, artsy threshold.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed those aspects,
but
it was
definitely
in fact
was not
fairly spacey and artsy. That is true.
Yeah, no, it was great. I just think that it for my personal taste, if they dialed it back a tiny bit, it'd be cool. But no, still fine stuff.
No, Nate, you just don't have the refined palate that many of us do.
That's true. I should go back to watching Marvel movies.
yeah, if the reviews we read have any bearing on the situation. Yeah. For those of us who read books and such, sweet God, beautiful.
Well, do you want to hop right into trying to do some plot recaps here, or is there anything else you want to lead in with?
No, I mean, we'll talk about it after the plot recap, because I have some thoughts. Just in general, but let's try a plot recap.
Sure thing. I'm trying to remember exactly how it opens. It has
a nice
him just
green felt.
That's true. Yeah.
Table with words coming up on screen. Yeah, it opens up on like blackjack and a little dialogue explaining the concept of counting cards.
Yes. So we have our main character, William Tell.
Yes.
Who is counting cards. He's playing some blackjack, and it seems that the dealer is kind of starting to pick up on this. And he kind of gives a little bit of a look to presumably the manager of this casino, who is starting to make his way over.
Right.
And Bill Tell has been around the block enough to know when
it's time to get going.
Yeah.
Before the person approaches you and is like, "We appreciate your patronage, but not that much. Get out."
Yeah, so he then heads to the cashier and collects his winnings.
$750.
And then heads to the motel.
Yep.
I'm going to let Whiskers in because she's scratching at the door.
Yeah. Nate here has a fun thing that he likes to do where he likes to shut the door to his room and leave his cat out of it. Knowing full well this is Whiskers' home, all Whiskers wants to do is come home.
All she wants to do is walk in and say, you know what? You can't lock me out, and then walk out.
She does that so often. And granted, Whiskers is, I relate fundamentally to Whiskers in that so long as the door is closed, she'll paw and claw and cry. And as soon as the door gets open, she'll walk 1 foot in and be like, yeah, this isn't that cool. And then leave. And, you know.
My favorite is she'll do it when I'm using the restroom.
Yeah.
I'll be taking a poo, and she'll she'll come on in, and I'll let her in. She'll brush up against my legs. I'll close the door so that, you know, nobody else has to see me sitting on the toilet.
Yeah, right.
And then she'll cry until I let her out.
Yeah.
And rinse and repeat until I finish using the bathroom.
Yeah. Rum Tum Tugger from the musical Cats has a line about that exact sentiment. Basically encapsulated in the line, I'm always on the wrong side of every door.
Well said.
Yeah. And as soon as he gets home, he likes to get about. Mm-hmm. He likes to lie in a bureau drawer. But he makes such a fuss if he can't get out.
Similarly, William Tell, as soon as he likes to get in the door, likes to cover every piece of furniture with white cloth.
It's more like a blue cloth, unless I'm colorblind.
I don't know. There's a lot of lighting going on.
It was like a white. It was like a bluish, like a robin's egg bluish type of thing going on.
A cloth, all the same.
Yeah, like you know, like I don't know, linens. Is that what linen is?
I don't know. Man, we're so good at podcasting.
I don't know anything about fabrics. Get off my case. It's blankets that seem awfully close in both color and texture to my own personal blankets on my bed, and it makes me wonder.
Well,
there's something to be said for my brain.
Well, I would ask you, do you tend to tie those things to your furniture with twine?
No, but is it weird that when he did it, I was like, that's a good idea. I was like, yeah, that would keep it nice. Sterile. It's a calming environment.
Yeah, so he makes himself a nice sterile and calm environment.
Right.
And then he gets to journaling, I believe. Yeah. And we hear a nice voiceover that lets us know that William Tell did some time in the slammer.
Yeah, and he never thought he'd be the type of person that would adapt well to a life of confinement.
But he adapted well
incarceration. Yeah.
To a life of confinement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he enjoyed the structure, which is almost parallel to the life that he's chosen in some sense.
Yeah, it's weird because there's an Onion bit, like, you know, the Onion, like the funny news people.
No, I don't think I caught that. What was that?
You don't know the Onion, like the satire news bit? Like
okay. No, I do. Okay, I understand what you're saying now. I was like, I thought you were saying like, well, at first when you said the Onion thing, I was like Shrek. And then my second thought was that like there's just a bit about onions that everybody knows about. No, I am quite familiar with the Onion, the satire news post.
Right. They have a bit where basically they have like a highly autistic reporter, and he's interviewing a guy in prison, and he's going over like the routine and like the strict and the reporter starts going, how can I get in here? Like how can I like become part of this? And it's weird because you know, like it is weird because unironically I've had thoughts like that where I'm like, what I wouldn't give for just like the constant ticking and steady routine of like a prison. Where, like, you know, like, seriously, it's like they'll give you room and board and feed you, and you just have to do the routine thing, you know? It's like, tell me about it. That sounds beautiful. So I understand this guy when he starts talking about how he would adapt well to the routine of prison.
Yeah, but he certainly adapted well.
Yeah.
And right now, we don't know why he was in there, but we know he was in there. And he learned how to count cards while he was in there.
Yeah, he had a lot of time on his hands. So if you're wondering, how does somebody become proficient at counting cards? It's like, well, I had 10 years. I had 10 years of jail, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of time to think in that environment and read. He never thought he'd be a reader, but he turns out he quite enjoyed reading.
Yeah. So then he wakes up and heads to the next casino.
Yep.
It's just, every day, a new city, a new casino, a new way to make some cash. So
a very modest, small amount of cash, so he can continue his life of just kind of, checking into a motel, making money, surviving, just casino after casino.
And so he heads to this next casino, and we meet a friend of his from his past. We don't get a whole lot of info into him.
Mutton chop man.
Yeah, but they clearly do a little bit of gambling together from time to time.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So they end up then, I think, going to another casino together.
Yes.
They do that, and there is a poker tournament that's going on, and they just missed it. They're the game or the tournament is now at the final table,
right?
And so now they're just kind of observing. Right. And there's an obnoxious guy who's wearing all United States of America flags.
Yeah, he's a big fan of
all
America.
over the place.
Yeah.
Shouting USA at every possible interval.
Well, he has a posse that shouts USA for him.
Yeah, but he definitely basks in it as well.
Oh, of course. USA.
East Ukraine.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's revealed he's from the Ukraine.
So it's all just an act.
Yeah, right. So, what's the USA stuff?
Yeah, so while they're sitting there watching that, there is a woman who approaches.
Yes.
And she recognizes Bill Tell. And apparently, I believe they had done some tournaments together.
Yeah, he recognizes her. Like, they've seen each other a couple times. 4 times, to be exact. And then he lists them off, and one of them is Harrah's in Philadelphia. Anyway.
Yeah. It's very close to here.
Yes, but you know what's closer to here? Delaware Park Casino.
Actually, I think that Harrah's is closer to here, like geographically. It's Philadelphia, but it's like Chester.
Yeah,
maybe equidistant.
Okay. We'll look into this. Yeah. We'll look into this. No, I could believe you, though.
No, I'm just...
I don't know casinos. I don't go to casinos.
Yeah, me either.
Harrah's, like 24 miles northward. Their table limits are pretty shallow.
So I've heard.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so we find that this woman's name is Lolinda, was it?
Yes. I know it's a double L.
Yeah.
Like Lady Luck or Lucky Lady.
We'll go with Lolinda.
I like Lolinda. That's a good guess. Sounds right.
So her name is Lolinda.
Yeah.
And she is what they call a stable. And
I don't think she is a stable.
She runs what is called a stable.
Yeah.
And so apparently in people who count cards talk,
right.
That is essentially a person who organizes people who are good at playing poker and counting cards and doing all that jazz, and connects those people with people who have a lot of money and are willing to pool that money together to essentially win more money in these tournaments.
But this isn't just like a gambling term. Like a stable is a pretty common concept.
Are they?
Yeah, even in we were talking about wrestling before this went on, and there's wrestling stables.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I always
like
heard
the Four Horsemen or like Evolution. Those are wrestling stables.
Okay, yes, I have heard that term, but I've never heard it in that context.
Yeah, basically the concept is that you have, a bunch of people who can be recruited to go do a task, and someone runs that stable, or the stable runs itself. And that's what Lolinda does. She recruits people for a gambling stable.
Yeah.
And takes like a cut for her little organization.
Yeah. Or a stable co-op where everybody owns an equal part of the stable.
Yeah, a co-op stable. The Four Horsemen is like a co-op stable. That really is what they're like, though, because like they adopt new members of the Four Horsemen by like committee vote, more or less, of the other 3 horse. Anyway, yes.
But yeah, so
imagine it like a racetrack stable. Right?
Yeah.
Someone owns the stable, and the horses are the people in this. Did they go over this in the film?
Everybody gets a cut, is the point. And Lolinda is somebody who does a lot of organizing and sets some stuff up.
Yeah.
So
she's a good agent.
Lolinda says to William, she says, you're not making a whole lot of money doing this. What you need is a backer. You need somebody who will front you the cash so that everybody wins a little bit more.
Right.
And Will kind of explains, what? I'm not really interested in that. I make a little bit of money because I want to make a little bit of money. I just want to get by. Yeah. The best way to count cards is to, not win too much, because that's when you have problems.
Yeah. Just keep it modest. And I'm a modest man. I don't want too much. I don't want for much at all.
Mm-hmm. And so he then departs, I believe.
Yep.
And then it's to just another casino, another day, I guess.
Yeah.
And so then at our next casino,
right,
he's collecting his winnings, heading off to perhaps cash out.
Right.
But then he gets a glimpse of a poster that in the same casino, convention center, wherever they are, there is a convention that's going on. And it is a security convention of some kind.
Yep.
So his curiosity is piqued.
Naturally.
And he decides to go check it out. And so he heads into this convention, and he sees that there is a certain person that is speaking, giving some kind of presentation at the moment.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the guy's name.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, we can just call him Willem Dafoe.
It's Willem Dafoe. Gordo. Yeah. Something Gordo.
Yeah, something. So anyway, I think it's John Gordo or something.
Sure.
Well, Willem Dafoe, John Gordo, is giving a presentation on facial recognition software and such, and how it could be used in law enforcement and many other contexts.
Yeah.
And so he's giving a presentation about this. Will is kind of just watching.
Well, he sees Gordo speaking and starts kind of like getting really uncomfortable and shifting around. And eventually it's just too much for him, and he just like gets up to go leave.
And as he does, he passes by a man who's considerably younger than him, and
a kid, one might say.
A kid, yeah, and he seems.
I mean, a full-grown adult, but
a kid adult. And he seems quite frazzled himself, but he stops him on his way out in a kind of hushed tone because the speaker is still speaking.
Yes.
He goes, "He look familiar, or you know him, or something like that."
Like, you recognize Gordo, don't you?
And then he hands him a piece of paper, and he says, "This is my number." And maybe my room as well.
He's like, I'm staying at this motel. Here's my number.
Call me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Will's just like, okay, and then leaves.
Right. Basically, he goes up to his room and decides to give the kid a call. And it's like, hey.
Then he goes down to the bar.
Yeah, he goes to the bar of the motel that the kid is staying at. And he gives him a call, and he's like, all right, meet me down here. And so he asks the kid, he's like, why did you give me your number? Like, what's the deal? What's this name mean to you? And the kid's like, all right, yes, so here we go. Gordo, as it were, was a authority figure in charge of training the soldiers at Abu Ghraib. If you don't know what Abu Ghraib is, I don't know, Google it. But basically, imagine like Guantanamo Bay. It's the type of place where they did the torture practices of the Bush administration in the Iraq War. And so if you've seen the photos or heard about it or haven't heard about it, look into it. It all becomes pretty apparent. But imagine a really inhumane environment where people who probably had nothing to do with the thing we were trying to find information on got really severely tortured in some really terrible practices, and that's more or less what it is. So he was like, Gordo trained you and my father as interrogators and guards in Abu Ghraib. And so he's like, so I know the hell that you went through and my father went through. And when the photos came out about Abu Ghraib, you were one of the people in those photos. My father was one of the people in those photos. And you became incarcerated. And meanwhile, Gordo got to more or less change his name, his identity, never get linked to the horrors that happened there, and have a successful career while you went to prison. And my father, through a cascading series of events from his involvement in the whole thing, had to go on painkillers, got addicted, beat my mom and me a bunch, kind of got PTSD and depressed, and then eventually killed himself.
And the mom left.
Yeah. So like he's like, I have a vendetta against Gordo because. Yeah, well, for what I just mentioned, more or less. He's like, look, my father's dead. The practices in the military are obscene and lead to PTSD, and I blame the man who trained him in this really terrible environment to even exist, let alone be complicit in. So I'm going to kill this guy. Not only am I going to kill this guy, I'm going to kidnap this guy, subject him to the tortures that he trained my father to do, and then kill this guy. And, since I saw that you recognized him, I can assume that, well, not even assume, he knows him.
He knew a little bit about him.
Yeah, I don't know how he found it. It's not really established, because it seems kind of implied that this kid can do some internet sleuthing efficiently. But he's not exactly like an OPSEC master, right? Like, he's not really super great at like covert operations or like, you know, some kind of like dark web wielding kind of fellow. Like, he doesn't seem like one of those types.
No, certainly not. Yeah, I think the long and short of it, though, is that he's done some research and he knows who Will is.
Yes.
And he says, hey, look, I want to kill this guy.
Yeah.
And
for what he did to my father.
And you have a bone to pick with him, too, I presume.
For what he did to you.
Yeah, so why don't we, team up and take this guy out?
Yeah.
And Will pretty much straight away is like, no.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah. No,
I understand your feelings. They're misguided, though.
Exactly.
It's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. And so then he's like, all right, yeah, we're going to go our separate ways now. Good luck to you, kid.
Yes.
And then he goes back to his room, and he can't sleep. And then in kind of a strange turn, then calls the kid and says, hey, you want to travel the country with me and go from casino to casino?
Right.
And the kid's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I guess he's kind of reflecting on it, and he's like, this kid is in a place. I understand the place. I sympathize with this kid. Let me take him on the road with me. I'll watch over him, and maybe I can try to convince him not to follow through with this ill-conceived plan.
Again.
But also, silently,
I can't wait
maybe I could theoretically be convinced to go through with this plan because, not that I'm entertaining the thought right now, but it does appeal to the kind of vengeful, indoctrinated part of my mind that is part of my character. So that's kind of his bit. Is he's like, I'm going to try to convince him out of it, but maybe through some cruel twist, I could be convinced that this is a good idea, and I could even like plot it out with him a little bit. So it's this type of thing.
Yeah. And so then they head to, actually, Delaware.
Yay!
Hooray! Yeah, so
Delaware Park.
They then kind of just start doing their own thing, betting and the like.
They make a point how in Delaware, casinos are tied with horse tracks, and I really wonder what that's all about.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I guess I never really thought about that before, but yes.
Yeah.
I only know about one casino here.
Yeah.
Delaware
Park. There's
Park.
also like Dover Downs and stuff.
But that's like a car racetrack.
I think they do other races too because they have a casino there.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to look into that. They make it sound like it's an anomaly that the casino's tied to like racing.
Yeah, no, they certainly do.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
So they go to Delaware. They start doing their own different gambling stuff while they're there.
Yeah.
And then Will decides to make a phone call. And he calls who else but Lalinda. He's had a change of heart. And you know what? He's going to go through with it. He's going to get a backer, and he's going to start making the big bucks.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, you know what? I'll take your offer now to join your stable and start competing in like the big money tournaments and things like that.
And so he does. And then I think very briefly after, Lalinda meets them at a casino. I don't know whether it was the same one or if it's important.
Right.
And they start discussing terms. And he more or less shoos the kid whose name is Clark with the... No, not Clark.
No, it's not.
Yeah, was it?
It's Kirk. It's Kirk with a C.
Kirk. I knew it was because I was going to say Clark with a C, and I was like, wait, isn't Clark with a C?
Yeah, right.
Carl with a
C.
C.
I feel like I would have recalled more strongly if the kid's name was Clark.
That's fair, yeah. But anyway, he more or less shoos off Kirk and says, adults got to talk business.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and talk business they do. And Lalinda asks the question that's on everybody's mind. Why the change of heart?
Right.
And he more or less says, this kid, I can tell. He's got problems.
Right.
And we also had very brief conversations in the car that make me allude to that.
Right.
And so, you know what? It's not for me.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm a modest man.
Yeah.
But I can do right by this kid.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go and win the World Series of Poker. But just one time, and then I'm out.
Yeah, I don't know. Granted, he doesn't call a shot quite that much. But yeah, he's like, I'm going to build a nest egg 1 year, and then I'm out. And then Lalinda's like, I know gamblers, and I wish I could believe you. And then he says, believe.
And then some sexual tension starts to build.
Yeah, I suppose this is the start of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we get a series of several different stops at several different casinos.
Yes.
And every so often, we'll just say for the sake of argument, every other casino perhaps.
Sure.
Then will turn to Kirk and say, "You still want to kill that guy?"
Right.
And Kirk will say,
yeah.
And then he'll say, "Don't think you should."
Right. Whiskers is assaulting the furniture as is tradition. Hello, Whiskers. How's it going? Good to see you. No, I don't know. I mean, like, look, they're more or less a trio centered around William. I had to remember his fucking name. Yeah, so William, Lalinda, and Kirk all go around. And William kind of likes Lalinda, and William has a care for Kirk and his plight, and wants to convince him to live an honest life as opposed to fixate on Gordo and the revenge he wants to take on him. And so they go around, and Lalinda's like, "Why do you care about this kid so much?" And Gordo and Kirk they know about like his history at Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib. I know this. I don't know. My brain's very tired.
Did you say they or as in Kirk or?
Yeah, Kirk and William.
Okay. I didn't know if you meant Kirk and Lalinda because she certainly does not.
No, yeah,
know.
she has no idea. So like Kirk and William have their little connection and like the horrors of being an interrogator in Abu Ghraib and what that does to a man. And so that's like their dark secret that they share. And so Lalinda's like, "Why do you care about this like kid so much?" And also to the kid is like, "What's up with this guy? Like he's clearly hiding some kind of like shady past stuff. Like what's his deal?" Mm-hmm. And both of them are kind of like, "Oh, nothing. I just we sense a connection. He reminds me of myself at that age or some shit. Who knows?" So there's kind of that where they build on that. And then the kid to, I guess, Kirk to William is like, "You like Lalinda, don't you?" And like Kirk isn't so much like, "I like Lalinda" as much as he's like, "Yeah, I like her, and also I'm so lonely." And he never says outright, "Oh, I'm so lonely." But it's hard to see someone with such emotional turmoil and believe that they're really reaching out just because he thinks she's neat. I don't know, it's hard with these types of things. So there's that. And the kid's like, "You should get with Linda." And Kirk's like, "You should abandon your torture murder fantasy and go reconnect with your mom." And the kid's like, "Well, yeah, I'll consider doing that." And then William's like, "Yeah, well then fine, maybe I'll consider getting with Linda."
Yeah.
The arc of the story isn't very long or very complex. It's a lot of the little things and, the experience of the day-to-day that really makes this film. As far as story beats go,
not a lot.
It's pretty concise, A lot of what makes the film effective, enjoyable, and memorable is a lot of just like the fleshing out they do of the characters, the environments, and the time they spend together, the conversations. So it's a pretty dialogue kind of and character-driven film. So the actual story beats themselves are not all that in depth and complex.
Yeah. So anyway, they are now getting to the point at which the World Series of Poker is starting to rev up and reach a climax.
Well, they're about to go to the World Series of Poker, the final game. William has been playing in these World Series of Poker tournaments and has finally advanced to the finals. And so he's like, "All right, I'm going to the finals," and I want to say Chicago, but I might be wrong.
I have no idea.
But he's like, "Yeah, so we're gonna go out that way." And Kirk's kind of like, "Yeah, that's cool." And William's like, "Look, how are you enjoying like this going around and doing the casino circuit thing?" And he's like, "It's fine, it's cool, but I might split." And William's like, "All right, you're gonna."
Are you thinking about killing that guy again?
Yeah, kind of. He's like, "All right, you're gonna bail. That's fine. That's cool." Hey, I got something I want to show you real quick. So they get up. And they go to his hotel, and he's like, sit down, you want like some water or whatever. And they go through this whole scene essentially where William kind of reverts into his interrogator kind of persona and essentially like full on sets up Kirk in a situation where he's like, "I'm about to fucking torture you." And, if you've ever been subject to that type of behavior or even seen a movie where you've seen someone be subjected to that type of thing,
it's tense.
You can imagine the intensity and fear that Kirk is experiencing. And, the actors do a very good job. So there's a scene where essentially like Kirk is, being sat down and being spoken to and convinced by William, who has like his bag of tools and shit, that he's just like, "I'm about to fucking torture you. Unless." And so basically William pulls out his tools of torture and stuff and pulls out a big old bundle of money.
He goes through very detailed of like, "Oh, this thing you need money for? Covered. This thing you need? Covered."
He's like, "You have college debt. Your mom has credit card debt. You have no like funding to actually like exist and live at all. So I'll give you money to pay off your debt, your mom's debt, go back to college, buy the supplies you need for college, and even have some money to like kind of blow and spend around just on like a leisure pay for all I fucking care. You're going to take this money. You're going to go reconnect with your mother. I have her address right here, matter of fact. Like, here's your mom's address. You're going to go reconnect with her. You're going to send me more or less the transcript of you connecting with your mother. You're going to put her on the phone and have her talk to me about how you've reconnected with her and told her your college plans and how you've paid off her debt. And that's what you're going to do. And Kirk, because he just loves not having any prospects in life at all, fucking apparently. I get it. I didn't go to college either. I kind of have like this kind of abject, kind of like vague, not aimless, but I understand the whole idea where it's like, yeah, I understand the kind of like wanderlessness of it all.
Yeah, I did kind of like, I won't lie, definitely in that scene, I was kind of thinking like, okay, look, I'll connect with my mom, but do I have to go back to college? Like,
well, look, frankly, if some strange man came into my home and was like, here's a bunch of money. I will give you a full scholarship, more or less, to go to college. I will pay for all of it, and I will pay off your mom's credit card debt. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but you wouldn't have to threaten me with torture to get me to accept that offer.
No, that's fair.
Sorry. But if some dude was like, I'm going to fund your entire ride to college and pay off your mom's debt, and then I'd go, college of my choice? And he'd go, yeah. And I go, major in whatever I want? And he'd go, yeah. And I go, you're going to pay for all my expenses? And he's going to go, yeah. And I'm going to go, and when do I have to pay this back? And he's going to say, oh, never. I'm just giving you all this money to do this. And then I go, huh.
Well, you better break out the torture equipment. 'Cause I'm not going.
Yeah. And then I would say, twist my arm. Ironically, like people do in that situation, because that's all the persuasion I need. But Kirk is like, what if I don't? Because what he's really saying when he's saying go back to college and reconnect with your mom is he's saying go back to college, reconnect with your mom, live a healthy life, and give up your fixation on taking your revenge on your father's behalf and torturing and killing this dude who taught people how to torture and kill. And I can fucking tell right now, since I've even implied torture, that you don't have the emotional gruff, more or less, to deal with the shit you figure you're going to get into in your like headcanon fantasy where you abduct and torture and kill this guy. You know, like, dude, take the wise option is more or less the pitch. And so Kirk goes, all right, well, what if I don't? And he says, I'll fucking find you and actually torture you. So, Christ above. There is a scene in Fight Club, if you've ever seen Fight Club.
Actually, I haven't.
Okay, there is a scene in Fight Club where Brad Pitt's character and Edward Norton go to a random store, like a liquor store, grab the cashier, put a gun to the back of his head and say, take out his wallet, look at his driver's license and say, what did you want to do before you just became a cashier and resigned yourself to like this life? He was like, I had this idea of being a veterinarian, but I just couldn't do it. I just never fulfilled that dream. And Brad Pitt goes, okay, I'm not going to shoot you right now, but I have your address, and I'm keeping an eye on you. If tomorrow you are not on your way to becoming a veterinarian, I am going to come find you and kill you. And then Brad Pitt does this little pontificating thing. He's like, tomorrow is going to be the best day of that guy's life because he's actually going to, like, by threat of whatever, God vengeance, more or less, be on his way to being a veterinarian. And Edward Norton is kind of like, his methods are strange, but, I think he just benefited the world through what he's just done. And that's more or less the tone of this scene. Where it's like through the implicit, given the alternative, which is literally torturing you, like Abu Ghraib style, I'm going to fully fund your way. He's not even asking him to, anyway, point being, this is what he offers to Kirk. And so Kirk is like, all right, I'll go do that.
A super steamy scene between Lalinda and Will. You've been waiting for it.
Let's get it on.
And it's here.
Yeah.
And they get it on. Good for them.
Yep.
And then after they do the deed, Will is like, hey, Lalinda, look at this. And then he has like a video of like a FaceTime call between Kirk and Kirk's mother, and she's like, "Are you okay? This is weird. Are you in moral distress?"
Oh, she's like, Kirk, I haven't heard from you in like fucking forever. Oh my God, my son. Hello. And Kirk's like, Ma, I haven't done right by you. I'm going to come visit you. And she's like, this is so strange. Has something happened to inspire this like change in behavior?
Are you being threatened by torture if you don't speak to me?
But he's like, nah, Ma, I just want to come see you and make things right and repair our relationship. And, William and Lolinda smile, and he's like, that kid's getting his life together, by God. I'm really proud of him.
Yeah, so then a match, I don't know. Yeah, I mentioned to Mike, I'm sure a lot of things in this movie would make a little bit more sense if you knew how to play poker.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I don't know how to play poker.
I have a general gist of poker. I've played Texas Hold'em a couple times.
But yeah, no, especially when he's doing like the voiceover.
Yeah.
He could just be like, the dealer flips Burgundy, goes to Triceratops, dip into the bay.
Right. Not familiar with the flop, the river, and all that, are you?
Pair the monkey.
Yeah, right.
And that's a royal flush.
Uh-huh.
And I'd be like, huh.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know if you're familiar with John Boyce or John Bois, depending on your pronunciation, from SB Nation.
No, I don't believe so.
He does like various YouTube videos, but basically he has a series called Pretty Good, and he has like an hour-and-a-half long video on like poker and the cruel randomness of it all, and like professional poker. It's a great video. We'll have to watch it sometime. But yeah, so
that sounds interesting.
That gave me a lot of exposure into how seriously one could be expected to take professional poker.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of the standard like poker. If you've seen gambling movies, you know the tone.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just like 4 cards are exposed on the table. This last card has a 2% chance of giving me the entire win. All in, baby. So it's a lot like that.
The game has been going on for a bit, and then there's like a break in the game.
Yep.
And before this round, or whatever you'd call it, started, Will gave his phone to Lolinda and says, "Can you hold on to this? I'm expecting a call."
Right.
And so when it's now time for this break, Lolinda's like, "Hey, you got a message from what's his face? From Kirk. And look, he says wish you were here." And he's like, "Oh, that's Kirk for you."
Yeah.
"Oh, look, he even sent a picture." And it has a house that is kind of familiar to the viewer because Kirk, I keep wanting to say Clark, because Kirk was showing how Google Earth is a mighty powerful tool and can show you images of people's houses.
Right.
Maybe even of, some guy who used to train people to torture people.
Yeah, right.
And so anyway, we see a house that is clearly not Kirk's mother's house.
Yeah, it's Gordo's house, which is meant to imply that Kirk has decided to take all this money and go try to kill this fucking major guy.
Then Will is clearly distraught and upset.
Yes.
But he goes to continue playing the game.
Right.
And so he tries his best to just focus on the game.
Right.
But he cannot.
Yeah.
And so then he just dramatically leaves the poker table.
Yep.
And everybody seems confused because they're like, is that against the rules? I don't know.
Yeah, right. They're like, the fuck is this?
Yeah. And so then Will goes back to his room, which is decorated as usual by his cloth and twine.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that he's watching a newscast on his laptop.
Yep.
And the newscast is that just outside of a home in insert where Gordo lives.
Right.
There was an attempted break-in, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And a tranquilizer dart was fired at the resident.
Yep.
But it missed.
Yep.
And the resident fired back, killing the suspect, who was unnamed.
Yep. Yeah. So Kirk is dead. Yep. And so, William goes from pretty much being like, I'm going to find that kid and torture him. I said I was going to find him and torture him if he didn't go reconnect with his mom and go to college. And he didn't do that. I'm mad as hell. I'm going to fucking kill this kid. Or at least torture this kid. And then he finds out that Gordo, in fact, killed this kid.
And he probably didn't even torture him.
Yeah, I mean, come on. And so, for some reason, William then thinks, well, in light of this kid's death, I suppose the only appropriate way to pay my respect to this kid's life
is revert back to my carnal nature.
Yeah, is to go do the thing I was trying to... is to go do the thing that I even joined this fucking championship poker stable for, to make all this money, to give this kid proper incentive to let go of his traumatic burden and revenge fantasy and go live an honest life. All of this I undertook to try to persuade this kid not to go kidnap, torture, and kill Gordo. So, I figure the only proper response right now is to go to Gordo's house and torture and kill him.
And that he does.
So yeah, I mean, like, Gordo comes home and all his furniture is covered in blankets and twine.
Which it takes him a long time to notice.
Yeah, which is weird. And his power is cut. And I'm like, dude.
You know what, actually, I like to think that the reason that he didn't notice that all his furniture was wrapped in twine and cloth
Right.
Is because that's just something that people who torture people do.
Yeah, it's just
that's what his house looks like, and that's
what they
why
taught him in Abu Ghraib.
It took the realizing that the power was cut to realize something was off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's just how his house is decorated.
Right. It's not even like how William didn't do any of that. Like, that's just how he keeps him. Maybe fucking Christ. So, he's like, Gordo, sit down. I'm going to shoot you if you don't come with me in the other room and have a torture off with me.
Yeah, and Gordo's like, all right. Yeah.
Maybe I haven't been trained at Abu Ghraib, so I don't understand the sentiment behind this. But basically, I don't even know how, like, the rules of this are supposed to fucking work.
No, I don't either.
He's like, you and I are going to go into the opposite room and do what we know we must do, which I guess is like some ritual that everyone who's been trained at Abu Ghraib knows, where it's just like, we're going to go in the other room and torture each other until one of us dies. But we're only going to but we're only going to do torture stuff that doesn't clearly grant us the victory by just killing the other guy.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Like, I don't know. It's like, all right, I'm going to torture you. I put a bamboo splinter under your fingernail, and I go, okay, I'm going to torture you. I'm going to take this screwdriver and drive it through your eye. Like, I guess I won the torture off. Yeah. Like, what is this? How do you properly escalate a torture off so that it's not just like, oh, you're just going to kill me with that one, buddy?
How do you do it back and forth? I wonder if they have, like, a timer. Where it's like, hey, time's up. It's my turn.
Seriously,
Get in the chair.
I seriously have, exactly. Like, I don't know how you respectfully torture each other without inherently trying to like tilt but this one will put you closer to death thing you're going to do to me, but makes no fucking sense to me. But they have a torture off, and he's like, you're going to come have a torture off with me. Only one of us is leaving alive. And if you don't come have a torture off with me, I'm just going to put a bullet in your brain right now. And Gordo, after weighing these options, goes, well, as an honest man, I must have this torture off with you.
Yeah, as much as I did enjoy the film, I can't help but think that, I think it the same, gravitas and weight to that emotional conclusion would have been reached if instead of having a gentlemanly torture off, if he just, more or less just knocked Gordo out, and then Gordo wakes up and is like, oh no, I'm about to be tortured.
Right, yeah,
and then he gets tortured, you know? Like,
yeah. And, it's cool. They didn't show any of the torture, which is nice. That's good. I'm glad they didn't take it that direction. But
we did see a penis, though.
We did see it. We saw footage from the actual Abu Ghraib tapes and photos and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. If you didn't look into this when it happened in 2004, like I didn't, because I was like 12, but if at some point in your adult life you haven't revisited what winds up being like the torture policy of the Bush administration, which is why...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know a bit about that, but no, I have not seen the videos or anything.
Right. Yeah, well, like it was, it is a pretty... What would you say? It's one of those moments that I think deserve a spotlight in American history, and like what there's one of the things that is significant, so
yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad they decided to be, I guess, tasteful with the torture. But for the fucking life of me, I cannot wrap my head around how a torture off to a gentlemanly like death is supposed to fucking work. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no, it's a very
I
valid
seriously just don't
question.
get it. I honestly have no idea.
But yeah, they have a torture off.
Yeah, Gordo loses.
Better luck next time.
There is no next time, I guess. But yeah. So I keep wanting to call him Travis Bickle, but no, William Tillage or Bill Tell, as it were, comes out, calls the police, and says, "I'd like to report a homicide," and then goes back to jail, where surprise, surprise, he's found
happy.
that he adapts to jail really well, and then
What's
Linda.
this?
What?
A visitor?
Yeah, a visitor. I honestly wondered who the visitor was going to be.
Yeah, I figured it would be Linda.
Yeah, so did I. But like,
I did-
the amount of build and tension they gave to it made it seem like it might be somebody else.
Yeah, I jokingly
like-
leaned over to Mike.
It's Kirk.
to maybe imply that it was another kid
Yeah.
who tried to take out Gordo.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he's trained
not
a lot of
Kirk.
people's fathers, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Kirk actually went to make up
Reconnect
with his mom.
Yeah. And he's just like, the fuck, Bill?
I kind of wish that.
That would have been great.
Oh yeah, would have been it'd be an M. Night Shyamalan level twist.
Tell me about it, yeah. Yeah, it's Linda. And they have like the Adam touching God finger pointing thing.
But it's kind of funny because she has long extended nails, so like
yeah.
she has to kind of
acrylics.
adjust her finger
Yeah,
as she
she's-
like points towards the glass.
Yeah. I noticed that myself.
Yeah.
And it was nice they really lingered on that shot in a very artsy kind of way, so I had time to really like kind of just like look at the shape of like acrylic nails pushing
Yeah.
against glass. I don't know. And then I just kind of got lost in the imagery for a second.
Yeah,
But
you did. I was like, Mike, I gotta pee. Come on, let's go. And you were just like staring at the screen.
Yeah. But yeah, 100%. So that's the film.
What would be your pitch as to how Will and Willem Dafoe?
Yeah.
What would be your pitch as to how they would settle things aside from having a torture off? Like maybe like a game of Yahtzee.
I do like a game of Yahtzee. No, nothing that
have to do.
Nothing that involves probability and odds, 'cause clearly Bill Tell is quite practiced in odds calculation.
Yeah, that's fair.
Twister, maybe? Well, because, it could have the same bodily contortion kind of tones of a torture off,
It would still have like the same screaming from the torture. It would be like,
Yeah, we're just like left foot yellow. It's like my joints aren't meant to bend that way. It's like we both endured the tortures. We know.
like the spinner.
Yeah. So a game of Twister seems like it still keeps that tone of like body contortion and mutilation, but
Yeah, no, I like
Through a
Twister.
game of
That's a
Twister.
good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that.
yeah. That
Maybe a hot dog eating contest.
Yeah, sure. I could see that. Yeah.
Maybe I've been editing the Food Boy episode, so
Right.
maybe that's why this is on my mind. But maybe have them do the gallon challenge. See who can.
Yeah, the gallon challenge is a
Tank
good
a gallon
one.
of milk.
Yeah, if it's like a hot dog eating contest, I think it'd be better if it was like a spicy food eating contest without the ability, because there has to be pain involved, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
They have to have their torture off. So yeah, maybe who can eat like the spiciest bowl of chili?
Yeah. So writers, take note. Torture offs, not good.
To this day, they don't work cognitively. I don't know how you
Twister offs,
Twister off's sensible.
and fun for the whole family.
I just don't know, unless there was a moderator for the torture off, which I don't think there was. It's just like Gordo's wife. Yeah.
Yeah, she was never brought up. I will say, I did really like the sound design of this film.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like the music. The music was fine. Like it wasn't
Right.
bad. But like eerie sound design, phenomenal. I like that a lot.
Right.
It was very good. And like, I really like just that creepy, dissonant type of music.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of like the actual compositional stuff of the film was really good. The sound design, the camera work, the cinematography, really done. The dialogue was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
just the torture off makes no fucking sense to me. I seriously can't wrap my head around it. Like, I'm not mad about it because I enjoyed the film overall, but like, what? How does that even work? Seriously, how does that work? I want somebody to pitch to me how the fuck you're supposed to do a self-moderated torture off without going like full tilt and just fucking killing somebody.
Yeah, you think they would like have taken the time to lay down some ground rules?
No idea.
Again, yeah, I think torture off was dumb. Again, I think the same emotional weight would have been achieved if they just fucking tortured Willem Dafoe's character and was like, this is for Kirk.
Right. And then he could even still like call himself in and be like, yeah, I just killed a man.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, everything else would play out exactly the same. Right. You just wouldn't have the confusion of what is a torture off.
Yeah.
How would that work?
I mean, like, never mind the fact that, like, Bill spent the entire fucking film just being like, we don't go track down Gordo and torture and kill them, and then just decided to 180 that as soon as Kirk decided to go try to do that and got shot. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
I think, additionally, I have to say, again, as much as I liked this film, if you are somebody who really likes Willem Dafoe, and that is kind of your main reason for coming to see this film, I think you will be disappointed.
Yeah, he's not really present in it.
Yeah, not really present, and has a major role, I guess, as far as the narrative goes. But as far as actual
like presence, screen time, it's not up there.
No, not really. And as much as I love him, his performance, not bad, but it's just it's kind of vanilla. Of like, plays the character that needs to be played for the story, but is not a very interesting character.
Yeah. There's not a lot of depth to the character.
Which Willem Dafoe, phenomenal actor. I don't know how great it would make for an episode, but I would love to watch The Lighthouse with you. That's like
that would be great.
Movies,
that'd be incredible. Yeah.
I love it.
No, absolutely. I've never seen it either, so yeah, we really should do that.
I've seen it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to say before we try to do the one review that we found for this film?
I accept the fact that whatever level of macho indoctrination has taken through my upbringing and time as a human being has made it such that when I see or hear about the concept of like 2 dudes going into a room and being like, as gentlemen, we have to have this torture off, and being like regimented and like putting themselves through like the experience of being like deprived and like hurt and stuff like that. I think that's cool. My part of like whatever, like my central lizard brain just goes like, yeah, these are cool dudes. Fuck yeah. When like Taxi Driver happens and the dude goes in and starts shooting people, I'm just like, yeah, baby.
Well, I think it kind of harkens back to a phrase that you brought up in, I believe, Don't Breathe 2. It's that, with one of the greatest inventions in cinema is ass kickers, ass kicking.
Yeah.
And you definitely get the idea that Will is somewhat of an ass kicker.
Right.
And so, whether or not you agree with their morals or whatever, you want to see some ass kicking.
Right.
It's kind of that same conundrum as with Don't Breathe 2, where it's like, this guy certainly has some questionable background to him.
Right.
And I can't quite say I agree with that, but I am going to be in his corner when it comes to watching him beat up people and torture them.
Right. It's the kind of thing where it's like this dude was on the torture ring side of the horrors that happened at like Gitmo and Abu Ghraib and such like that. So I just, it's hard to pitch that character to me conceptually and go, we're going to build sympathy with this guy and really see that deep down he is a good, righteous man. And I it's a hard pitch. I mean, look, we kind of as a world decided the morality behind doing as you're told with the Nuremberg trials, right? Like, it was this kind of thing where it was like, that's not really an excuse. That's not to imply... Look, but this is the kind of thing. Like, the rules we kind of laid down are, regardless of the system telling you that this is acceptable behavior and the indoctrination of it, is on the individual to say, no, this isn't acceptable. No, I'm not going to do it. And I think there is a case to be made that anybody can be indoctrinated into a system to do these terrible things. It just takes the proper brainwashing, more or less. And so it's hard for me because I can see the point to say, like, good people can be corrupted to do terrible things in a system that incentivizes and trains them to do it. But I...
Well, I would say that this movie...
But they shouldn't be glorified, I guess, is my point. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
the
you're
movie
fine.
kind of glorifies the character. And he does like a lip service line where he's like, am I trying to justify what we did? No, we can never justify what we did. And I go, yeah, you say that, but this whole movie is framed around like, but how cool is this guy? How awesome is it that he has all this experience torturing people and doing atrocious things, and now he can wield that terrible skill to do good in the world, or at least own up to the cross he bears and everyone bears who participated in it. But it paints this all in this very glorious kind of light that I really don't think it should be done. Like, I just don't think that these types of things
and the
should...
directors would probably argue that, like, no, like, he's a bad guy. You're not supposed to think he's cool, but you know that doesn't change that. That's how people are going to interpret it.
No, look, I really do think they would say, like, he's like the anti-hero kind of guy. It's like he does bad things, but he's a good, righteous man. Or, like, not even, like, righteous. Like, no, they're like, no, he's a sinner. He accepts that. But, like, his actions are some actions to be respected, you know? And I just don't think... I don't think that... or at least it doesn't feel okay with me, conceptually, to be able to say that anybody can utilize the skills and procedures used in torture to any kind of end that would in any sense say, we're not trying to justify it, but like understand how this would be an approach to take and can produce good. And I don't know that I'm comfortable making that trade-off.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. At least not to that end. Like, it'd be one thing if, like, Gordo was like, I've planted a bomb on a train, and it's going to explode, and you'll never get me to tell you how to defuse the bomb. And he just goes, okay, well, I'm going to, like, torture you until you tell me how to defuse the bomb. Like, fine. Maybe that. But, like, that's a very different thing than all the truth and reality that happened to the people... Especially if you know about, like, Gitmo, Abu Ghraib, and the kind of, like, deals and people we more or less abducted and wrongfully imprisoned and suspended habeas corpus to imprison, and then all the shit we did to them. Like, it's so hard in any way to, after that being the background story of your character, then be like, yeah, but this time he tortured the right guy for the right reasons, or at least if not the right guy for the right reasons, he tortured... someone where an argument could be made that this is a sensible torturing. And look, he was even willing to be tortured. So you see that, you know, it's even and therefore at least somewhat not repulsive, I guess. And I can't wrap my head around that as something that I'm willing to square with because I can't square that in my moral brain.
Well, I will say.
Well, sorry. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you with this. Like, I'm so sorry. But, like, I make such a hard point about this because I know if I don't put thought into what I'm supporting and leaning into, I get really caught up with it. And I view this guy as some kind of, like, John Wayne badass guy where I'm just like, fuck yeah. And I'm like, oh, I want to be like this guy. And I'm just like, wait. And then I have to take a step back and really look at myself and be like, oh, I'm getting caught up in it. Like, it's happening to me. And I have to maintain my perspective that, like, I really shouldn't. That's not something that if I think about it for a little bit, that I'm willing to support and emulate or idolize, because I don't think it should be. Anyway, done interrupting you now. Go on.
You're fine. I was just going to say that what I'll say is I am glad that the torture people ended up dead or in jail at the end of this film.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And again, I think the film tries to say, like, yeah, look, he even, like, turned himself in and is doing time in prison, you know? But he may be in prison, but they don't frame him like a criminal, right? Like
No,
they don't frame him as a dude who should be in prison. Like, I feel like if you were to talk to people about, like, why do you think he's in prison? It's not because he's done terrible things and should be in prison and removed from society because of the actions that he deems are acceptable actions to take, as much as they'd be like, well, we just live in a society where you understand that if you torture some guy to death in an honorable exchange of torture, you just gotta go to jail for it, and he's willing to do that crime and do that time. But it's not like, oh, because if you think at any point in your life an acceptable reaction to anything is to go torture somebody to death, that you need to be removed from society. It's not that. Like, yeah. Yeah, so, you know, I think there's a lot of, like, performative service done to, like, justice being served and sensible action being taken, but a lot of the subtext and framing of it doesn't back up that imagery for me, which is the problem I have.
That makes sense. Would you like to read the one review?
Oh yeah, let's do it, because I haven't read it.
Yeah, so we're gonna date this podcast episode right now. It is September 10th currently.
Yes.
Well, I guess actually technically it was September 9th when we saw this. It was
what year?
midnight.
1985?
Yeah, of course. What are you getting on about? Of course. Anyway, so it's now September 10th. It's 12:42 a.m. This movie just came out, and additionally is a limited theatrical release. I don't know to what extent that is, but anyway, there are very few reviews. In fact, the only non-critic review, which is what we tend to read, that I could find, was on Rotten Tomatoes. And there is one singular review, which I will read right now. And this is from Catherine F. And they say, I did not care for it. It started off slow and went nowhere. The war torture scenes had nothing to do with the gambling. There was no peak, and the ending was blech. I can't believe Martin Scorsese directed that movie. Too bad as it had good actors.
Weird. Weird. That's weird. That's a weird criticism of the film as far as I can tell.
Yeah, come on. Like, tie the torture scenes into the gambling, please.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Like, what the fuck was supposed to happen?
Into your movie.
Yeah. Like, what is he supposed to be at the poker table, and then like some dude comes and sits down and is giving him a run for his money, and he's just like, "Do I know you, stranger?" And the stranger's like, "You tortured me at Abu Ghraib." Like, what the fuck is this? How would you like that to be tied in? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting thing.
What the fuck?
I do have to say though, like
I don't like side stories. Thank you very much. I don't like other parts of character.
Every time that he was doing a narrative, or like rather, there was like a voiceover, where he was explaining some card stuff.
Sure.
All I could think of was, I think it's The Hangover 2 or The Hangover 3, where Zach Galifianakis is counting cards and
right.
It's like all the like crazy graphics of mathematical equations and stuff. That was all that I could think of every time that he was like, you see, the dealer has the birdie, and there's a 5% chance that it's going to be a squirrel.
Yeah, it's hard with counting cards because that concept's been done in very bad movies many times. So, you know, it's hard to take counting cards seriously as like a concept for a film. Not to mention, the man counts cards as like part of the billing and then proceeds to play Texas Hold'em.
Yeah,
for most of the film. It's not even like a blackjack thing.
Yeah, I was curious about that because, again, I don't know a whole lot about cards and poker. And I did think to myself, I was like, can you count cards in Texas Hold'em? I'm
sure there's some practice you can do, but they put a lot of the emphasis on like blackjack and how counting card works in that game.
Which also, I guess that leads to probably the last thing of note I really have to say, and I'm going to sound like a fool, but like, I don't understand what the deal with counting cards is, like why it's not allowed.
No, it is allowed.
Well, like, why do you get thrown out of casinos for it, you know?
Because, like, you know, like, if you're taking too much of the money from the casino, you're cutting into their profits.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I feel like I don't understand how they can be like, all right, get out of here. You're winning our game too much.
It's a private business.
That's stupid. I hate this country.
Yeah, it's interesting because the business model of casinos is come try to win money. And so if you start winning too much money, they can essentially be like, this is an unruly patron. You need to get out of here, buddy. You're acting out of hand and you're disturbing the other customers, or whatever legal jargon they'd have to say for you to get out. So it does seem weird. It's almost like being like, hey, come to our all-you-can-eat buffet. And then if you eat a bunch of food at the buffet, they go, all right, buddy, you're eating too much. Get out of here. You know, it's like, okay. It's like, this is what you invited me here to try and do. What the fuck?
Yeah, no, certainly. Yeah, it's
yeah,
strange.
And like, of
Never
course,
quite
like,
understood that.
yeah, and of course, because the whole bit is like the house has a slight advantage, and then people who count cards essentially take that same marginal advantage that the house has and turn it to themselves. And because the house doesn't like that, you just go, get out.
That was another thing too, because when he was talking percentages, I don't know, maybe this makes a big difference in the long run, but it's like, it seems that when you count cards, you kind of only have like a 1 or 2%. Like,
right, but that's significant enough. That's significant enough to tilt some tables, man.
I guess. I don't know. This is why I'm not a card counter, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, like they say the house always wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's some truth to that statement. So if you can turn that marginal odd against you, then, you know, colloquially, you always win. Enough to get ejected from the casino.
Anything else you have of note to say?
No, not really. I mean, that review's dumb, I think.
Well, I don't know that we've ever really went to look for smart reviews of movies.
Fair enough. I'm just shocked she didn't bring up Marvel. Anyway, yeah, no.
Well, no, I mean, she probably was a Marvel fan, you see? That's why she didn't get it.
Right.
She was like, man, I understand why the war scenes, they didn't have anything to do with the cards. If only there was an origin story movie on the latest Avenger, then I'd get it.
Yeah, like we read books over here, so you know. No, yeah, I'm split because I really enjoyed the movie, but I can't help but think like the reason I really enjoyed the movie is because there's still some like internal stuff that I really ought to be working on more that would make me object more to the film and identify less strongly with the characters as sympathetic figures.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, what you gonna do? But yeah, I enjoyed the film quite a bit. I think it was done well.
It was,
frankly. So I liked it for that reason. Yeah, I'm torn. I'm gonna give it 2 ratings, one from my heart and one from my head in combination with my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do reactionary heart and consider what would you call it? And heart of consideration. All right.
Sure, yeah.
So my reactionary heart wants to just go full on and say that it gets a out of.
Here comes the money. Here we go.
But then again, my heart of consideration knows that while the film was done very well, the message of the film can be hard to square. And so my heart of consideration is going to have to go with out of. And those are just the 2 things tearing at my feeling towards this film.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's a complex movie, that's for sure. It's not something that can be easily explained, especially with all the nuance to it. And however, I don't have a whole lot of nuance that I have to establish through this review. And with that, I'm going to give that a very solid.
Bet after the river onto that scary board.
Out of.
A royal flush!
And yeah, it was a film that I won't be forgetting anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah, no. I really did like it. One thing I kind of is that like even just the opening establishing shot of the really up close like green kind of felt of like the casino table was really striking and kind of immediately drew me into the film. And it's just one of those things that like really there's a lot of power that can be done with just like how you introduce your film and how you design like even the cinematography and the sound that can really go a lot. That can really carry a lot of weight for engagement. And I just think the film did really good on a lot of those fronts.
Yeah, absolutely. It had a lot of shots that I think have a lot of staying power. Yeah, I hope that people get to see this. I know it has a pretty limited theatrical run, to my understanding.
Right.
And I
could even understand if people are just like, yeah, fuck this film and fuck this character. I've heard so many tortured men stories. I don't really need another one. So that's fair.
That's true.
But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I saw absolutely no marketing for this film, so I don't know.
I was surprised. I didn't know if this was some kind of like in-house kind of showing of some film. Like I didn't know what the deal was.
Yeah, I don't know. But with that, we will see you next time, and thanks for listening.
You're welcome.